Hey friends, my name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Sunday Q&A, and Walksnail is really good. It just is. It's just good. Is it as good as 04? No. But, you know, 04 is a lot more expensive, right? Like the regular Walksnail setups are especially like the 04 Pro, right? But yeah, man, Walksnail is just, it's really good. It is based off of old school DJI, which was really good. There's quite a few pro pilots, that myself included, that still fly old school DJI. Over here, there's a 5-inch Freestyle rig floating around somewhere with a Vista in it. The million-mile-an-hour rig with the 40-degree up-tilt mount still on Vistas, right? And Walksnail is slightly better than Vistas. And so, yeah, it's really good. You know, it's super tempting to jump on the bandwagon of 04. I don't know if it's a bandwagon or not, but this camera got smacked and the focus got knocked out. There we go. It's better. Yeah, it's easy to just, like, completely diss Walksnail or whatever and be like, nah, 04 is the way to go for sure. But like, you know, with everything doubling in cost because of the big dumb lunatics, if you've got Walksnail, you don't have to go to 04, you know? Like, it's not every bit as good, but it's really, really good. And I kind of, you know, I got all carried away with the 04 stuff and then didn't fly Walksnail for a while. And then on Friday's live stream, I fixed the Walksnail RC drift car chasing setup and flew it around and was like, wow, yeah, right, I remember this. It's really good. And then I put the little Freestyle 1S setup in the air and I was like, wow, really good. And then I had my Quadmula F3 split and Grinderino sitting over there. And I remembered that they're both on Walksnail. They're both on the old school Walksnail setup with the old gray VTX. And so, yeah, I threw those up in the air about a half an hour ago. That was like right before the stream. And you can see where you're going. And the DVR looks damn good. And you know, it's I had a blast flying these two things. The first little bit of flight footage that you saw was with this one. Something I recorded more than just, I thought that I recorded more than just that, but apparently it didn't actually record it, which was kind of weird and super annoying. I should have recorded like 8 minutes of flight with this, but for some reason that recording starts, and that was the only recording that was on this. That recording started after like 4 minutes of flying and a crash. But luckily after that crash I flew a little bit again, so you got to see this thing fly. So this is a Quadmula F3 Siren. I actually haven't weighed either one of these in a while. And so that was the first flight footage that you were seeing. Very easy to tell which is which because it was the green. Well, here, I'll play it. I'll play it again right now. So here's the tail end of the flight footage for some reason. This is me clearing the leaves and shit off the front porch. So here you go. So this is a custom build based around the Quadmula F3 split frame. Flight controller and ESC don't matter. They don't affect the flight performance at all. Toka 1505 motors, which unfortunately you can't get anymore. Although these weren't the greatest motors. These motors were really well known for the bell slipping on the motor shaft, and the bell would just fly off midair, and you would lose the bell and the prop, and potentially the entire quad. So not the end of the world that they don't sell this motor anymore. But it's a 1505 3800 kV, kind of a low kV. These propellers are low kV for 4S at least. These propellers are HQ 3x3x3s, the old school props. These are some of the best balanced 3-inch propellers. I wish they were a little bit more pitchy, but I mean, decent power. The battery that I was dragging around for this that I like on this style rig is a 4S 850. Really good runtime. Not a whole lot of sag. Heavy battery, but 3-inch rigs at the weight that battery is on them fly really, really good. What else? Oh, I broke a little zip tie. I gotta fix that. So yeah, there you go. There's a little bit of flying. I did more flying with it. And then the second bit of flying is with the Grinderino. Big old smudge on the lens, unfortunately. So this is the Grinderino on 3.5-inch props, but let me give you a weight on the Siren F3. It helps if you turn the scale on, I guess. Come on. There it is. So the Siren F3 is 175 grams dry with the 4S 850 GNB battery, 277.4 grams. So just call it 277 grams all up. that amount of weight on a 3-inch prop, I really like it. It doesn't have so much hang time. What you're watching now is a much more hang timey kind of setup because it's a 3.5-inch prop and it doesn't really weigh much more. So this is the Grinderino on Xnova 1804s and GemFan's pitchy 3.5-inch prop, which is the 3525. And so this guy, dry, is 206 grams. With the 4S850, it's 308 grams. So it is heavier, which helps it not be so floaty from the bigger 3.5-inch props. But this is still a more floaty kind of setup, as you can see, right? Like all this off throttle time, I pretty quickly realized that like I need to ease up on the full throttle blasts so that it's not so high up in the air and I'm not just like waiting for it to come back down. Here's a perfect example, fully off the throttle, wait. Now it's all the way, now it's come all the way down. You know, not that bad. Most people wouldn't really notice that, but I'm very sensitive to like the amount of hang time that a build has. I try to get everything to match up with 5-inch rigs as close as possible so that there's the least amount of adjustment between flying one to the next. That used to be a lot more important when I used to fly a lot of 5-inch stuff, but nowadays it barely matters since I just don't really fly 5-inch rigs hardly at all, if at all, anymore. But in my brain, there's an amount of hang time that like I'm looking for, and there's just it has to do with like the pacing of my flying. There's like a pacing to the way that I fly, and too much or too little hang time feels awkward and it feels weird and it kind of throws that pacing off. And so I notice it. I'm somebody that's flown tens of thousands of batteries, right? And I spent many years in the middle of my sort of FPV, of my time in FPV, right? Basically like years 3, 4, 5, 6. I flew thousands, if not tens of thousands of 5-inch batteries. I was hell-bent on really getting as good as possible. And at the time, 5-inch builds were the ones that flew the best. And so I really focused on that. And when I would fly, what I realized pretty quickly is that the best way to get better is to fly the same thing over and over again. If you can't do that, or if you're not willing to do that, I was still addicted to micros at the time. The best way to do that was to get all of your builds to fly as closely as possible together in flight feel, in hang time, in power to weight ratio, stuff like that, so that when you do inevitably switch from one to the next, you don't have to spend 2 or 3 batteries adjusting, right? There is going to be there's always going to be an adjustment because less weight equals less inertia, less momentum. And so when you go to you know, throw the build up over like 2 trees in a row, there's no, you know, you can build a 3-inch, you can build a 2-inch propeller rig that's 300 grams, right? That's a tiny little propeller and a lot of all up weight. It's still not going to throw as well as a 600 gram 5-inch rig on, you know, sort of bigger propellers. This is why, like, you know, when, if somebody says like, oh, this flies like a 5-inch, or someone asks like, how do I get this 3-inch to fly like a 5-inch? They're typically new to the hobby. Like anybody that's been around for a while understands that the only way to get something to fly like a 5-inch is to build a 5-inch. Like, you know, trying to get a classic Mustang to drive like a Tesla, it's not going to happen. There's going to be less Nazis inside, and it's just not going to happen. Sorry, I had to. You can't. I can't. Just saying. Yeah, it's just not gonna happen. And but uh, that is like the one main thing that's gonna make it. Well, and when people that have been around for a while say that they've got it, that actually understand this, what they're actually saying when they say like, oh, this TinyWhoop flies like a 5-inch, what they're saying is that this TinyWhoop flies good. 5-inch builds got the most R&D, they got the most attention, they got the most love, and so 5-inch builds fly phenomenal. The propeller size, the propeller weight, I mean, there's also some sort of like the material that we make these propellers out of. The biggest propeller that material works well on is a 5-inch, is 5-inch diameter. When you go bigger than that, this polycarbonate material starts to resonate and it starts to just kind of like fall apart, and it gets a little bit too floppy. So like the 5-inch propeller size does have a very specific benefit to the propellers, the propeller material, I should say, that we run. But other than that, our whole FPV community has spent more time dialing in 5-inch rigs. So, yeah. Sometimes when people are saying, "Oh, this flies like a 5-inch," all they're actually saying is that it flies good, and that's fine. That's totally fine. I'm replacing the zip tie on this one antenna mount here. That's completely fine, but I still kind of don't like it because, ow, you fucking son of a bitch, you. I pulled too hard on the ouch, on the zip tie, and it broke. Because it gives people that don't get it hope that they can build a 3-inch rig and then take it out to a football field and it's gonna be fun to fly. And it's not. A football field is for flying a big power, big weight rig, you know, as is like a big open field. 3-inch stuff, 2.5-inch stuff, this is for out in front of your house, although it's a little big for out there. Those of you that hang out here a lot will probably have noticed a completely different flying style with these two guys here on this live stream versus when I fly 75mm 1S and 2S TinyWhoops outside, out front, out back. It's what I call it is size. How big or how small are you flying? Out in front of the house, there's like you can fly really small by like ducking in between the bushes, like you see me do, shooting the little tiny gaps in between each individual bush, going through the middle of the of some of the branches and stuff like that, right? That's flying really small. That's what a 75mm or even an 85mm rig are going to do really well, especially with prop guards to get them like laser straight. And then you fly something like this, and now you got to fly like sort of medium scale, which is bombing down the middle of the street, throwing it up in between trees, right? Like a 20-foot gap in between the canopy of each tree. That's a gap that these things are going to be able to shoot really nicely. Throw it up through there, drop it down, you know, in the big-ass gap, the big 50-foot gap above the house, ride the roof down into the grass. You know, that's flying like medium scale. When I was finishing up this massive 6-drone build project for this company in Texas this last week, I tested 5 of their 6 builds, which are 5-inch rigs, out in front of the house, and that's what made me want to fly these two guys outside of the house, because a 5-inch build, which is for flying big, it feels claustrophobic going up and down the street because it has so much power, it has so much speed, and the canopy of these trees out front is relatively low. These two felt perfect out in front of the house just now, and it was really, really, really fun. I can't really recommend flying stuff like this out in front of your house in the street unless like you live on a cul-de-sac like me, because like bashing into a car or a parked car, a driving car or a parked car with one of these, it's going to be a shitty day for you. Like, it's going to do some serious damage. It's going to be expensive. You know, if someone's driving that car, there's a chance that they're gonna smash into something, right? Because it's gonna hit really hard. And so I will not make a habit out of flying this in front of the house. And to be really honest, these won't get used much because of that. Because if I'm gonna go drive somewhere to fly, I'm gonna typically want to fly like 5-inch builds. So like if you've got like a bunch of land or something like that, yeah, these are awesome. But like in terms of flying out in front of your house where there's neighbors, where there's cars, shit like that, 75mm 2S rigs, 85mm 2S rigs, those are the way to go. And they also allow you to fly small. I could not drop down into the bushes with these. It's unrealistic. There's too much up tilt, right? To be able to fly fast and interesting down the street, you've got like 25, 30 degrees of up tilt on either one of these. And just the up tilt alone, if you try to drop down in those bushes, you're looking up like this. You can't see where the hell you're going. If you drop down into the bushes with enough forward tilt to be able to see where the hell you're going to be going 40 miles an hour through the bushes, and you're not gonna, that's just unrealistic. And so, yeah, every single size and weight build has an area that it's going to perform really well in, and that it's going to feel comfortable in. And, you know, when I do a build planning session through my Fiverr, that is the majority of what we talk about. Like, where are you going to fly this? Like, there's a ton of other questions that I ask. What skill level you're at? What are you doing with the footage? Yada, yada, yada. But, like, the big thing for deciding the propeller size and the weight is where you're going to fly it. Are you going to fly it at, you know, your 14-year-old's high school where there's a football field for you to blast around in that's completely empty? Are you going to fly it out in front of your house? Are you going to fly it in your backyard? How many acres do you have? Is this a jungle gym basher, right? Like, the location that you're going to fly, the location that you're going to fly is going to have a very specific build that's perfect for that. And when you get that combination right, you have the most fun. And you can do the sickest stuff, and it's just, it's like the most important thing. You know, I used to think that, like, getting the power to weight ratio right, finding motors that ran smooth enough to get the PID tune dialed in, you know, having the perfect rates, I used to think that that was all the most important shit, but it really isn't. The propeller size and all up weight really are the thing, and it has to match the spot perfectly. And you can be off a little bit. Like, if you've got a medium-sized spot and you build a 250-gram 2.5-inch rig, but like a 280-gram 3-inch rig would actually be perfect, you're gonna be fine. It's not that serious to get it absolutely perfect. There's definitely some leeway, but flying an 800-gram 2207 mega power 5-inch rig out in front of this house, it's not good. Can you do it? Sure. Can, like, one of the absolute top pilots do it and make it look really good? Absolutely. If they hit someone walking their dog in the face, is the fact that they've been flying for 15 years and they're the best pilot on earth going to matter? Fuck no. They're going to jail because they just killed someone. Maybe. Part of me does kind of think that an 800-gram 5-inch freestyle rig at full chat to someone's face could kill them. I have heard, though, of someone being hit at full blast. It was a kid that got hit at full blast with a 5-inch racing rig, and they survived. They had to have reconstructive surgery, but they didn't die. That's a racing rig, right? That's like half the weight. Yeah. An 800-gram rig at full throttle at 80 miles an hour, that's going to be a nightmare, a actual nightmare. So don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, this is one of the biggest issues with 5-inch rigs, is that, like, they're a liability. And in the world that we live in today, it's hard to go somewhere that people aren't going to be, right? There's too goddamn many of us. So yeah, there's that. Hey, in the chat, Matthew Wegner was first. Cowboy with a Camera was next. PUC was after that. CMYK FPV, Fizz PV, Captain FPV, Spaceman Spiff, Cowboy with a Camera. Mike Chin's in the house. What's up, Mike? How you been, brother? I feel like we met forever ago, maybe at Rampage, but Mike's on left coast. I'm on right coast. I am going to be on the left coast next week, though. For those of you that haven't been here recently, I'm tagging along with Maggie. She's got a conference for work in Long Beach on Thursday, Friday, Saturday of next week. So she's got a hotel room paid for, her flight paid for, some of her food paid for through her college, that she just defended her doctorate. So it's now Dr. Maggie, which is amazing. Yeah, so she's got this conference to go to, so we just had to grab a ticket for me. And so, yeah, I'm out on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Sunday and Monday, we're staying with my cousin Andrea, who lives in San Pedro, which is going to be super fun. And so, yeah, I'm going to miss, next week, I'm going to miss Wednesday's stream, Friday's stream, Sunday's stream, and Monday's stream. But I'll be back after that. So, yeah, I'll be in Long Beach, and I won't have a whole lot to do. We're not renting a car or anything like that, so I won't have a whole lot to do, like, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I am going to bring TinyWhoops. I am going to bring 04, and I will find some really fun stuff to do for sure. But, yeah, with what's happening, we're not trying to spend, like, sort of any money, right? Because it's about to get absolutely apocalyptic. And so we'll see. I won't be out gallivanting. I would love to hook up with the Super G guys. There's a really well-known RC drift track run by Super G, and I tagged him in a thing on Facebook. I need to actually just straight message them and say, like, hey, do you have anything going on? Because that would be very, very cool to check out their little RC drift track. I wish that I had some kind of a contact with, oh wait, no, never mind. I was about to say with Hoonigan, but they got shut down and screwed over by corporate greed. So I don't think they have that really cool little RC drift track anymore. That's a shame. They used to have a beautiful little RC drift track in their main location. But yeah, I think last year, they got bought up by a company that cared about their shareholders more than anyone else on Earth, and that destroyed Hoonigan, from what I remember, which is happening more and more with YouTube channels that become successful. So yeah, Kennedy Custom FPV, Robert Pope, Cowboy with a Camera, Levster, Four Little Pigs, Flakedelic, Levster, Adam Weston, Espander, Everyday with Bruno, Uriel, Kelvin, Chris Mel, Andrew Taylor. What's up, friends? Thanks for coming. BMF Spade. CiottiFPV.com to support me. Join the Patreon. It's only $3 a month. That's 10 cents a day. It allows me to do this full time. It's the only way that I can tell you what AIOs catch on fire, what ones are really good, what ones are durable. It's expensive to buy stuff and test it without companies sending it to you expecting they expect a fair and honest review, but what they actually expect is a positive review. And a lot of times when you bash their stuff, all of a sudden they don't want to send you anything anymore. And you know, that's why most companies don't send me stuff. And so yeah, it can be a little expensive to do this the way that I do it, but you know, the integrity of me reviewing stuff and just kind of like doing it my way without wanting to be controlled by others is what's important to me, and it's the only way that I can kind of keep doing this without losing my mind. So yeah, join my Patreon if you have a couple of extra dollars. Also, you're going to get a ton of benefits. You're going to get full access to my Patreon, which is where all the cool guys hang out. You're going to get a YouTube playlist with unlisted stuff, Patreon-only live streams, sim racing content, sketchy flying that I don't really want to be public, good stuff like that. The Patreon itself has a whole bunch of technical articles on it. At the top of the Patreon, there's a tag that you can click that's called Tech Talk. Click on Tech Talk, and there's a whole bunch of really, really, really good stuff on there. It's well worth 10 cents a day. Do it, and I can keep doing this full time. you're also, of course, going to get the undying love of the gangliest gangly of all the ganglies. And I mean, come on, that's worth $4 a month. If you do $5 a month, you'll get in on giveaways too. The first Monday of every month, I do a bunch of giveaways. $50, $60 worth of TinyWhoop stuff is usually what you're gonna possibly win. So for $2 extra a month, if you win $50 worth of stuff, that paid for that extra $2 for many, many, many months. So maybe do that. One day you'll just get a package in the mail with a bunch of stuff, and you'll be like, "Oh my God, I won a giveaway." You don't have to be on those live streams to win the giveaways. Patreon forces you to put your address in, and then I have your address, so I can just ship your winnings, rather than chasing you around, which is how it used to work, which was a goddamn nightmare. I crashed the F3 pretty good and banged up this battery, but it took it well. So these two builds, the Quadmula F3 split and the Grinderino, I have not flown these much, admittedly. I rushed to get these done before Castle Crash last year, and then they were both acting really weird. And then when I got them home, they were totally fine. They both fly great. The 1804s on these 3.5-inch props are really, really good. These 1804 X Nova motors, 3500 kV on 4S, they are a little low kV and they're a little heavy for 3-inch props. If you can find the T-Motor 3140 props, those are my favorite 3-inch props of all time, and they work on these motors. It is still a little underpowered. Moving these motors up to a 3.5-inch prop really does wake them up. I love these X Nova motors because they are the most durable motors that we have ever had for micros. They have a 3mm diameter motor shaft, and X Nova just makes good motors. I had a set of these X Nova 1804s that I put through absolute hell for years. This is back in the days of the clean, dirty Acrobrat setup. And when I found these motors and put them on that Acrobrat, it went from like kind of being a pain in the ass for years to flying absolutely amazing. And then when you go to these 3.5-inch props on these motors, they really come alive. They don't really work on 4-inch props. They're really a motor for 3-inch and 3.5-inch props. And you want a pitchy 3-inch prop. The other 3-inch prop that'll work on these motors is the GemFan 3052. That propeller is nowhere near as durable as the T-Motor 3140. The T-Motor 3140 on this Grinderino is the basher of all bashers. Like, it is unbelievably fun. The problem is it just doesn't make quite enough power. And so these 3.5s are, yeah, I bounce this. If I were to fly this rig a bunch, if I were going out to a smaller spot and a spot with like more concrete and shit to hit, I would absolutely drop this onto the T-Motor 3140s. And then floating around the front of the house, stuff like that, bigger spots where I need more power, I would move it to a 3.5-inch prop. The F3 split is on these Toka 1505s that you can't get anymore anyway, but there are companies that make 1504s and 1505s with the higher KVs. These are 3800 kV, and on 4S, that works totally fine on even a slightly lower pitch 3-inch prop. The T-Motor 3140 propeller is M5 mount only. And there aren't many micro motors that are M5 mount. So those T-Motor props are kind of hard to find a home for. The GemFan 3052s, those are either M5 or T-mount. And those propellers are great on this rig, but they're not as well balanced as these HQ 3x3x3s. These HQ 3x3x3s are the best balanced 3-inch propeller ever. And with 3-inch propellers, a lot of them are not very well balanced. And so I moved this onto these HQ. This was on the 3052s. I moved it on these HQ 3x3x3s, and then I never flew it. And so this is my first time flying it, and the power was great. It performed really well on these props. The problem with these propellers is that they're weak. I crashed this one time. They're specifically weak between the blade and the hub. I crashed this one time in the street. I was flying really low. For some reason, the DVR didn't record. I was flying really low. I caught an arm, it flipped over, skidded down the street. That's what chewed up this battery, and it's just like rubbed the battery, right? The battery is not deformed from a hard slam. It just down the pavement. And just from that little crash, from like 2 feet off the ground, not even, it bent. Was it one of the rears? Well, so I shortened this propeller. It must have caught the ground in each blade. But the main problem is that it bent one of these down, and then it bent it down enough that it was catching on the arm. And now you got to take the walk of shame. And that's what I've always... So these HQ 3x3x3s have been around for a long time, and that's always what I've not liked, and that's always why I've stayed away from these propellers, is that they're fragile. And, you know, if this happens on a rooftop, you just lost $300-400 worth of... Nowadays, you just lost $600-700-800 worth of, right, a rig. And that's a shame, man. It's such a shame that, like, the best balanced propellers are, in my opinion, not quite durable enough. The blades are durable. Like, you'll never break a blade, but that doesn't matter. If the joint between the hub and the blade is not strong enough, you know, that's a huge problem. That's a really, really, really big problem. So I will probably be taking these HQ 3x3x3s off of this because, again, that was a nothing crash. And I had to run. And I was specifically, like, it was right before the stream, and I'm like, just don't crash, dude. Just chill. You know, like, don't do anything crazy high up in the air, because then there's a chance it'll slam, and you'll actually have to take the walk of shame. And so I was being really good, and I dropped down really low. I was like, oh, it'll be fine. Flying low to the ground. It's not going to hit hard enough to do anything that I have to take the walk. And then that happens, right? So, yeah, if you're not going to crash, the HQ 3x3x3s are great. If you're going to crash, I like the GemFan 3052s more. I also like the DAL 3028s, I want to say. Those have a nice strong joint between the hub and the propeller. Truth be told, there aren't many great 3-inch props. I was supposed to do a 3-inch prop with GemFan, and I totally dropped the ball. I got all carried away with TinyWhoop stuff. And I screwed it up, and I needed to send them a black box log, and I needed to be, you know, more on top of flying a bunch of 3-inch stuff, and I just wasn't there, and that's my bad, and yeah, I regret that. But there are some... The props that we have aren't that bad, but there's not like a real standout 3-inch propeller that's durable and it makes good power. And so, yeah, I don't know. Now that I will try to, I don't know, we'll see. Never mind. In the chat, if you want to talk directly to me, just type CiottiFPV. If you go to CiottiFPV.com, that's the easy button for joining the Patreon. There's a lot of other ways that you can support me. Here's the live streaming schedule. Here's a link to my Etsy store, which has all kinds of really cool stuff. Fiverr, if you want to work directly with me one-on-one, take advantage of 9+ years of FPV experience and stop buying the wrong stuff and wasting money. Teespring for some really fun shirts and other apparel. PayPal if you want to do a super chat, but you don't want YouTube to take 30%. Searchable live stream transcripts, which are amazing. Find the answers to your questions. And then tons of affiliate links. Change your bookmarks to someone's affiliate link. Support people that you watch on YouTube by just changing your bookmark to all of these different websites, and then you don't even have to think about it. If you don't use bookmarks and you just type like AMA into your URL bar for Amazon, remove your current like regular old Amazon.com suggestion and then click on someone's Amazon affiliate link a few times in a row. And then you'll notice that when you type AMA, it'll suggest that affiliate link in the future, and you won't even have to think about it. It's, for me at least, it's impossible to remember to hit even my own affiliate links, so I have to do that stuff. And you should too, because then it'll save you, you know, you spend a little bit of time now doing that, but then it'll save you time forever, and frustration of like, shit, I forgot to to click so-and-so's affiliate link and support them, and now they're going to stop doing their live stream because they can't afford to eat. I'm stretching, but it does make a difference. Let me get caught up on chat a little bit. Captain FPV tagged me and said, I love the way Siri pronounces your name in her announcements. It sounds like CiottiFPV. Nice. Lefster says, hey, everybody of you ganglions. CiottiFPV, what's up, dude? Espander says, hi. Kelvin says, what's up, Gangly Gang? Finished swapping all my TinyWhoops to CO3 cams. Now I have a pile of CO2, Ant Nano, and Newbie Drone BI cams I don't want. Spares, I guess. Yeah, spares are good, especially now. Kelvin also says, how do we buy your 3D printed batwing mounts? I want to make an analog Cinewhoop. I still haven't had a chance to take pictures of them and get them up on the Etsy store, so just message me. All my contact info is at CiottiFPV.com. Message me, tell me what camera you're using and what color you want. I have the full rainbow of colors, red, orange, yellow, 2 different greens, blue, and 2 different purples. Every Day with Bruno says, CiottiFPV in chat, anyone use the new Nano 7? No, I have a tab opened for the Nano 7 when on TinyWhoop's website. When the 300 mAh BT 3.0 batteries come back in stock, I'm going to snag... actually, it's the 450s that I'm waiting for. When they come back in stock, I'm going to snag a couple of those as well as the Runcam Nano 7, and I'll test it. Andrew Taylor says, what's up, everyone? CMYK says, CiottiFPV is my favorite cowboy. Kelvin says, haircut looking good. Thank you, dude. It's a little short. My hair grows really, really long, and I'm super cheap. And so... I will almost always have my hair cut a little bit too short so that it can last longer and it grows out. So like right now I'm always like, yeah, it's a little too short, but whatever. Cheapness, my friends. Flagadelic says, but didn't you say the Walksnails are not durable and burn up quickly? The Walksnail Lite, absolutely. I've had a really hard time with. Although I will say this. The Walksnail Lite that's been on this RC drift car chasing rig has been infinitely durable. It doesn't get crashed hard, but like I've probably put like 300 or 400 batteries through this build. So many so that I killed an AIO. I killed a Beta FPV AIO in this build, but the VTX has just kept working and working and working. On my 2S 75mm and 1S 75mm builds, I have not had good luck with the Walksnail Lite VTXs. I've had 4 of them fail. I sent them all to Walksnail and they repaired them all, and eventually they'll make their way back to me. But yeah, those rigs get flown and crashed a lot harder. A lot of full throttle stuff, a lot of bouncing off trees and the concrete and shit outside. These guys are not on Walksnail Lights. These guys are on the full-size, full-fat Walksnail VTXs. And admittedly, I haven't flown these nearly enough to be able to talk about the durability. But I don't really hear people complaining about the durability of Walksnail VTXs other than the Walksnail Lite. And so, yeah, very, very specific complaints about durability with the Walksnail Lite. Apache Smoke Window Sniper says, good evening. What's up, brother? CMYK says, I finally upgraded my Amazon Hex drives from 2019 and got the MIPS, stoked to build with them. Yeah, MIP drivers are a weird way to spend an awful lot of money, but every single time you use them, you're like, oh, yep, that was worth 20 cents. And then you use it again, you're like, that was worth another 20 cents. You know, you absolutely get what you pay for with MIP drivers. But boy, clicking the button and paying as much money as they are, I bought them so long ago that I don't remember how much that is. But I know that it's an amount of money where you're like, Jesus, am I really just buying a set of fucking drivers for this amount? But it's worth it. It's worth it. You're never going to need another set. Although you're almost going to never need another set. You're not going to kill them Is it this one? Yeah. You're not going to kill them on screws, but this 2mm driver, at some point many years ago, it was bridging something, and I plugged 4S voltage into it, and it took a chunk out of it up here. Luckily, it's only one corner that it fucked up, and it still does work. But yeah, one of my MIP drivers does. It's a little ugly, if I'm honest. FizzPV tagged me and said, while prop underpowered for your taste, my 4-inch Gep RC with tri-blade hurricane props does really good in fields. Nice. 4-inch rigs are super interesting. The 04 system on a 4-inch rig is a really interesting kind of do-it-all setup. 5-inch builds without the weight of a GoPro are super floaty, too big of a propeller and not enough all-up weight. And then so you drop down to 4-inch, and it's really, really nice. Craig says, nice haircut. Do you help with tuning a 2S Mobula 7 with Fiverr? The Fiverr stuff is like you pay for a half an hour or an hour of my time. I have 3 gigs up there that are the things that like I know that I can do really, really, really well, which are flight instruction in the simulator so that I can watch you live and I can watch your stick overlay and then you can watch me. Build planning and basically tuning. I don't tune your rigs. I tune your rigs, but what it really is me teaching you how to tune. I don't want to have multiple sessions with people where every single session they bring, they have a build and we just tune that build. The idea is that we tune one of your builds, and in the process of doing that, I explain everything to you. I let you record the entire session, and then I put you on a path of understanding so that you can tune it moving forward. Because when you change stuff, if you have an aggressive tune, you're going to need to retune. And so for me to make you understand what the master multiplier does, what the first couple of sliders do, I can set each one of you on a path where you're comfortable enough to actually move these sliders around a little bit. If you change propellers, if you change motors, if you start beating it up and the arms are starting to delaminate, the motors are starting to get banged up, you're running fucked up props, stuff like that. And so, yeah, that's the goal. But at its heart, Fiverr is just you're buying a half an hour or an hour of my time. And we're, if you have a bunch of totally, like, I've done a couple Fiverr sessions where people are like, hey, I want to start flying cinematic FPV. I see that you've figured out how to do that. I just want to ask you a bunch of questions about that. I'm totally cool with that. Marketing questions, like website questions, social media questions. It's all good. It's whatever you want in those sessions, we can kind of cover. I have those specific gigs up there to almost like get people's creative juices sort of flowing as to what I can help them with. But there are also things that when I started doing this, they were the things that I could see would help people the most. Build planning is massive because everybody wastes money on some part of the build. Everybody buys either the wrong motors or the wrong ESC or the wrong flight controller. And when you do that, you could have literally given me that amount of money and I would have told you to not buy it. And you could have saved the time of the building. You wouldn't necessarily save money because that money is gone and then you got to go buy the right flight controller anyway. But you could have given that money to me instead of literally watching it go up in flames on your quad. God forbid, when that ESC blows up, it takes the flight controller with it or the VTX or anything. Now you have really lost quite a bit of money. The flight instruction stuff came from me being an instructor at the racetrack and just learning how to teach people to do something very high stress and very technical. And so I knew that I could do that really well with FPV, and I have. And then tuning, it just, everybody wants to know how to tune, and it's really hard to kind of learn. And I learned in the early days when you had to do it all by the numbers, like Betaflight 3.5.7 days. And I don't use black box. I don't tune absolutely to the bitter limit of what's possible. And I think that's a good thing, because when you back it off a little bit, which you can easily get to without black box, you've got that headroom. So if you bang up a propeller, or if the rig just starts to get older and more beat up, you don't have to retune all the time. And if you're trying to fly good, constantly changing the tune is not the way to do that. You want to have a tune that you can leave alone and fly something that performs the same every single time. The tune doesn't drastically change the way that it performs, but if you're constantly moving the tune around, the other thing that happens is you can blame the tune for everything. You know, you did a split S and it sat down into prop wash. Instead of you blaming yourself for putting it into a situation where it's in its own dirty air, you're going to blame the tune, and you're going to say, oh man, all right, hold on, let me land real quick, let me get this tune a little bit more dialed in. And then you go do another split S, and you just, by dumb luck, you don't put it as badly into its own dirty air, and it doesn't prop wash, and confirmation bias is going to be like, yeah, there it is, cool, I knew I was the best pilot on Earth, it was just the tune. No, we all suck. Every single one of us, including the best pilot on Earth, the best pilots on Earth, every time they fly, get a little bit better. Like, nobody is at that, like, 20,000 hour or whatever the hell it is mark where you achieve true mastery. Even if someone is, like, you still get better. You still get a little bit better, right? And so blaming things on the tune is something that it happens. It's, you know, you're not an asshole because you do that. I do it too. Everybody does it. And so, like, not spending so much effort tuning, like getting the tune more aggressive than stock, but not to the bitter limit, to me is the best way to kind of promote a period of FPV where you're going to learn a lot. If you've already learned all that you need to learn and you're, you know, top 100 pilots, then yeah, for sure, crank. Or if you're doing like cinematic work where the output really does matter, absolutely push that tune even farther. And away you go. And the best way to do that is with black box. But I've been flying cinematic gigs for over 3 years. And yes, I have a couple of rigs that Brandon's Baked Beans has helped me with black box get absolutely dialed. If you want to learn the black box route, Brandon's Baked Beans, or just Brandon Beans in the chat, he's your guy, man. He's worked with the Betaflight devs before. He's a brilliant black box tuner. He's incredibly affordable at $1 a minute. And yeah, he will help you out. And I think he will explain it along the way if that's what you're looking for. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, that's your way to get there. For me, tuning is about, if you work with me for tuning, it's about understanding, getting a rough idea of what the P values are and do, I values, D values, D max, feed forward, how they all kind of talk to one another, and how to move the sliders around to get your tune from floppy, usually stock tunes, although better with every version of Betaflight, to like remotely aggressive, maybe like 80 to 90% perfect. And to me, that's the most important part. Getting from, I'm totally afraid of PID tuning because it can blow my shit up if I get it wrong, to having some amount of confidence with it so that you're willing to move the sliders around a little bit and experiment with it so that you can get more comfortable with it. And so that if you go out to fly and your rig is acting weird, you can troubleshoot it real quick, kick in the OSD, and, you know, either back the tune off because the motors are getting too hot, or push the tune a little bit because it's a little too floppy. That's where the money's at for me. But everybody's different, you know? No wrong answers. Craig said, oh, we got that. Craig also says, oops, answer is yes. Yep. For sure. Scratching my foot here. I was outside for 4 seconds. And so, of course, I got bit by a mosquito. Trying to find where I was at in chat because YouTube scrolled me to the bottom for no reason. I did a really fun Gran Turismo 7 VR live stream yesterday showing off this JGTC GT300 field of cars that I've bought and tuned in that game, and I'm just having the fucking time of my life with it. Gran Turismo has a Sophie AI for the computer cars, so that they're not just typical racing games. The computer driven vehicles are just on a path. They drive they program in the ideal racing line, and then they're just kind of on rails. They can deviate a little bit, but they're pretty much on rails. GT7 has that. They have like regular the regular setup, but then they've also got this Sophie AI where the cars have some sort of machine learning built in, and they really do act much more human-like, and it's really, really fun. They make mistakes. If you push on them, they'll push back. It's really, really neat. And recently they added that, so they keep making it better, and they recently added it to the custom race thing that you can do. And so when you build a custom race, you get to choose the racetrack, how many laps, a bunch of the different things, and you can also choose the specific cars from your own garage that are in that race. And so the other really cool thing about the Sophie AI is that it drives hard. Like the regular computer driven cars, they back off a little bit. They like, if you watch in the replay and you go in car with them, like you'll hear them go like on the throttle, because like they're slowing down to like let you catch up and stuff like that. The Sophie AI, when you crank it all the way up, they run hard, and I can't chase them down. So I have this field of cars that I built to the GT300 JGTC specs, which is basically 300 horsepower, and then like aero is kind of unlimited, racing slicks. And I can't catch them. There's like the front group of cars will break out, and I am not fast enough to catch them, which is exactly what I want. And then I'll usually be like mid-pack towards the tail end, and it's just hysterical, man. They're making mistakes, they're blowing braking zones, they're running into each other. Like I'll come through a corner, I'll exit the corner, and there'll be a fucking computer car backwards on the racing line. I'm like, yo, that's so cool. And so I'm just having so much fun with that. And so yeah, there's a little live stream from yesterday of me just screaming and yelling. So if you're into cars at all, you might dig that. FizzPV says collab with the slow-mo guys. My God, that would be ridiculous. I've been watching the slow-mo guys since like early days. They've been one of my favorite YouTube channels forever. Alexander Lewis Hughes says, the stuff I see most cowboys doing in the kiteboarding world with 5 and 7 inch FPV drones is only a matter of time before someone is seriously disfigured. They just don't comprehend it. Yeah, it's always been a problem in FPV, just reckless idiots that have way more self-confidence than piloting skills. And it's kind of unbelievable that we haven't had something like really bad yet. But it's coming. There will be a day when, there's a news story about some douchebag pilot smacking into a celebrity's face with something that has no business being near a celebrity's face. So that sucks. But CMYKFPV says, come to San Francisco. Man, I wish. That's just so many hours to get from Northern California to Southern. Craig says, sent you a $5 request, but no rush as you're traveling with Maggie. Congratulations on the PhD. Maggie would correct you. There's PhD and then there's doctorate. She says that doctorates are harder to get. PhD people say that PhDs are harder to get. I guess I'm legally obligated to be on team doctorate, but regardless, both of them are way out. I mean, I went through 5 years of college and I was just like, no more. I can't imagine getting a master's, let alone getting a doctorate or a PhD. It's a truly mind-bending amount of work. I met Maggie a little over 3 years ago when she was entering into the doctorate program. And I remember thinking like, wow, This girl's crazy. Crazy in a good way, but still crazy. And the entire time that we've been together, she's been in that doctorate program, working her absolute ass off. Just every day, unrelenting amount of work and learning, and growing. And yeah, it's been insane to see. Yeah, I don't have anywhere near that amount of work ethic. I love learning stuff. Much less, the older I get, the less I love learning stuff, unfortunately. I love learning things. I love the idea of learning new things, but like the uncomfort of learning something, you know, like as I get older becomes much more difficult to kind of tolerate. It's much easier to know something and then to like, I think what it is like, it's way easier to know a lot about something and then to get better at that. It's much more difficult to like not know very much, and then to sort of learn about it. There's an incredible discomfort in learning new things, which is super frustrating. Because like, yeah, right, we've got the fucking internet. We can learn everything about everything. But I've heard this from most people that have gotten older. It becomes harder, you know. And I mean, I'm sure there's our with our neuroplasticity changing, right? I'm sure there are biological reasons for it, but I think I think you could certainly get over that if you had enough willpower. But 404 willpower not found, bro. Craig's no, we got that. FizzPV says, I got some GemFan Wind Dancer 3028s for my JB 3-inch kit. Are they too much pitch? No, they're actually too little pitch. The Wind Dancer 3028s are like a big, heavy, thick bladed propeller, but it's only 28 pitch. They're okay. They're also a very fragile propeller. They're totally fine. Run them. It's all good. But there are better 3-inch propellers like the 3052s, the GemFan 3052s. I would prefer the HQ 3x3x3s to the GemFan 3028s. So yeah, a couple different options there for you. Uriel says, better brake prop than motor. For sure. Yep, it's always better to bend up a propeller than a motor. Which is why I have such a problem with these HQ 3x3x3 props bending so easily. If the propeller blade bends this easily, then there's a really good chance that in a crash, it's going to bend all the way down against the motor bell, and then the motor bell is going to have to deal with all of the shock from that crash. That's what bends motor shafts. You're much better off having a significantly stronger propeller so that the propeller will take more of the impact of a big crash before it flattens out against the motor. Most micro motors only have 2mm motor shafts, which bend just as easily, if not more easily, than the 1mm shaft on these tiny little 1S TinyWhoops. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people will build a 3-inch or a 3.5-inch rig, fly it for like a month, and then put it on their shelf and never fly it again. It's because like in that month of flying, all they did was change motors and bend motor shafts and deal with PID loop problems because the motor shafts are getting all bent up really easily. And it's why these Xnova 1804s and a couple other very rare motors that have 3mm thick motor shafts are so good. But yeah, unfortunately the motor companies, they don't listen to the people that actually fly these things hard to know how important it is to fix that issue. It's the biggest problem with 3-inch rigs is the motor shafts are mostly 2mm, which is nowhere near as strong enough. Skull 901 says, can I get an Oreo? Hell no. Go to Kroger and get your own Oreo flavored Oreos. Kennedy Custom says, I have a GPS unit on my 4-inch build. It locks sats just fine. However, the GPS speed reads low, around 3 to 4 miles an hour. What could be the fix? I've never used GPS on a single FPV rig, so I have absolutely no idea. Maybe someone in chat knows. But I just thinking about the way that GPS works, I don't think you're going to be able to fix that, because the GPS is just like looking at where it is in space. And like, I don't know how or why that would read low. That doesn't really make much sense. How do you know that it reads low? Are you, if you're comparing it to a car speedometer, the car speedometer is what's wrong. And they typically are. Car speedometers are very commonly not tuned all that well. And then once, like, if you change tires or wheels on a car, a lot of times you've now completely wrecked the accuracy of your speedometer if you change the outer diameter of the tire, which is really easy to do. Different manufacturers will have slightly different outer diameters, even on the same tire size. So yeah, if you're comparing it to a car speedometer, I would trust the GPS more than the car speedometer. Right, the car speedometer is based on gears and wheels and all kinds of silly shit. GPS is based on time and location. Uriel says, for me, the haircut is the max. I'm more the Marine haircut. It's so easy. Nice. Denzel the Terrible says, looks like he's ready for a job interview with that haircut. That's what I don't like about it. When it's this short, that's what I don't like about it. It's just like, no, I'm not working in an office, I swear. Bobby E says, it's not cheapness, it's being thrifty in a questionable economy. Questionable is the kindest way that I could possibly see referring to what's coming. But yeah, you're absolutely right, rather. Just Mo said, YouTube just did the thing. Scrolling back up. Where the hell was I? There we go. Just Mo says, been a while since I came here. Good to have you back, brother. I'm not reading any of Mike Chin's comments because I don't think he's been here enough to know to tag me. But I'm actually super interested in what he has to say, because I haven't talked to him in forever. Oh my God. Mike says, might have trouble getting T-motors, though. They've been sanctioned by the U.S. government for providing shit to Russia for weapons. Well, if they're providing stuff to Russia for weapons, then why isn't the head Cheeto in charge praising them and bringing lots of their... Oh man, I saw a protest poster on Instagram the other day that had a picture of Putin, and then below it said Russian dictator, and then it had a picture of the head idiot that said Russian dictator. It tracks. Mike Chin also says, nice. I actually have a quad on 3.5.7 still, and it flies great. I had, where did it go? I moved it. My very first 5-inch rig. There it is. It's over there now. It was still on 3.5.7 until like late last year. It's actually on an old 30x30 AIO. And I always had problems with it. Like, back in those days, AIOs were a nightmare. They didn't figure out how to make the electrical system clean. And I actually put it onto 4.2 or 4.3 last year, and it was a lot better because of RPM filtering and the advances. It really made a difference, and it flew really decent. It's still on old school FR Sky, so the range is useless. But it flew shockingly decent for having such old tech in it. That was a funny experience. Benny Bravo says, do you have any presets in Betaflight for TinyWhoop, specifically Air 65? No, and I don't recommend that you use presets. Tuning is very, very simple now that we've got the sliders. Absolutely anyone can do it. And doing your own tune is always going to be much better than any preset. If the preset is aggressive enough that it gives you a good flight experience, it's going to be very specific to that exact frame, motor setup, propeller setup, AIO, and pilot. If the preset is backed off enough that it'll work on anybody's setups. It won't be as aggressive, as you can very easily get it using the sliders. The master multiplier slider is so unbelievably easy to use that I like the filtering. If you've got a BMI 270 gyro, there's a very specific filtering setup that uses the Betaflight Clean preset in a really nice way that Brandon's Baked Beans uses, and it works really, really, really well. The stock filtering also works really, really well, and actually on the Hummingbird V4, when I went from their filtering setup to Brandon's filtering setup, it was either exactly the same, or I kind of think it might have been a little bit worse. So what that probably means is that the Betaflight guys spent a bunch of time on their filtering preset for their exact AIO and that exact setup, which makes sense. But yeah, don't use the presets for tuning. Take your master multiplier. If the quad is running fine, the motors aren't getting hot, it's not oscillating and trying to fly away on its own, if you can go full throttle and then chop the throttle, and you hear the motors come down in RPM quickly, take the master multiplier and move it to the right. Take it from 1.0 and move it to 1.2. Fly the rig, make sure it's not acting any different. Take it from 1.2 to 1.4. Fly it, make sure it's not acting different, 1.6. Keep moving that master multiplier up until it starts acting weird. When you drop the throttle really quick, the motors will slowly come down. That means you're at the limit or over the limit of the tune. At that point, you back it off. And that right there, that unbelievably simple little process that you can do in 3 minutes will get you a better tune that is specifically dialed for your exact rig than any preset ever will. So stop using presets for tunes. It's a bad idea. You might maybe find one preset that kind of works for your build, but it's not going to be dialed in as specifically as you just taking that one slider and just moving it up a little bit at a time until the rig tells you, hey, I'm unhappy. And like, you'll know. If you have ears and eyes, which you probably do, you will know it will act different than it just did before you moved it. And that is a super easy, super obvious indication that you're at the limit or beyond the limit. If you want to leave it there, if it is acting a little strange, but it still flies good, you're at the absolute limit of the tune. If you bang up propellers, you bang up motors, it's going to get worse. So for me, I back it off a little bit. And then if I bang up motors and props, then I got that little bit of headroom and it's still flyable. So yeah, stop using presets. They're a crutch and you don't need them. Benny Bravo says, and is 27,000 kV adequate for a beginner flying for less than 6 months? 20,000 kV is adequate for a beginner flying for less than 6 months. 27 is totally fine. Yeah. You're not making your life significantly more difficult until you get up to like 32,000 or beyond. Even if you were at 32, even if you bought 40,000 kV motors, you could just motor limit them down. If you fly a build and like it has an uncomfortable amount of power and you're like, wow, this has too much power, right? If you feel like it has too much power, then you just motor limit them down in the PIDs tab. Super simple. The motor limiting will be at 100%, drop it down to 80%, fly it again, see if you feel more comfortable. Like, you feeling some sense of comfort flying the particular build is incredibly important. And so trust that. Don't trust some stranger on the internet. Trust your own sort of intuition. If you think it would be easier to fly with less power, turn the power down. By all means, you can just turn it right back up in the motor limiting tab. So yeah, do it. FizzPV says, car sim question. I have Skyzone 40X Pros, work great for sim racing. Is there a way to use the head tracking they have? I doubt it, but you never know. I have no clue. I'm on console, and so they kind of force you to use their own VR stuff. But I've never heard of or seen. What you would need to look for is someone that's into FPV and also into sim racing. I doubt that any sim racing people know that FPV goggles exist and know that they have head tracking built in. Also, there could be problems surrounding latency. One of the really difficult things with VR is to get the latency low enough that it doesn't make you feel sick. If there's latency between the head tracking, if there's like a significant amount of latency between the head tracking and what happens on screen, that's what makes you feel sick. So I have a funny feeling that trying to like kind of bootstrap this setup with FPV goggles with their head tracking into your PC, the latency might become a problem. But that's just total speculation. Frank Nicholas says, I'm late. If no one has mentioned IGOW on the stream today, this is a reminder. Someone asked on Discord about you following along with IGOW, even though you aren't competing. Cool. Yeah. Let's do it on Whoop Wednesdays, though. On Whoop Wednesdays, remind me of what the current week's IGOW is, and we'll do it. And I'll do it for you live, and I'll talk about it, and maybe give you some hints and tips and tricks to make it easier for you to compete in IGOW. I'm not actually going to compete in it, but I try to fly a couple of batteries at least on most live streams, and that's a perfect chance to talk about it. And if I can help a bunch of the old gangly gangers be the ones that do really well in IGOW, that would be pretty cool. And so, yeah. I am planning on flying a couple of Walksnail batteries on the stream today, because that's, you know, the title and whatever. And so if you guys tag me and tell me what the stuff is for this week's IGOW, I'll do it while I'm flying Walksnail. Just in case. Oh yeah, you know what? Shit, I have to do it either today or tomorrow, because there will be no Whoop Wednesday stream this week. So yeah, in a little bit, I'll fly. When I get caught up on chat, I'll fly a couple of Walksnail batteries. Do me a favor, somebody tag me when I start flying with what this week's IGOW is, and we'll do it. Uriel says, I've seen some of the race. I liked it. BMF Spade says, I was watching you on Forza. It was funny. It was funny shit making me want to get a game console again. Just Mo says, have you gotten the chance to try Recursions 3-inch frame called the Scythe? No, I haven't even heard of that. It's kind of impossible for me to like try people's frames, because, you know, somebody sends me a frame that creates like about 6 hours of work for me doing a custom build in that frame. That's assuming that I have all the parts, right? If I have to buy parts, now it's costing me a ton of time and money to do that build. And then I don't like really get much out. You know, like best case scenario, there's like some affiliate link that I can link up to, and I can make a couple dollars off of affiliate sales from that link. You know, it doesn't, doing stuff like that it's unfortunately, I have to prioritize stuff that makes me money. I don't want to have to do that, but that's a part of, you know, running your own business or whatever. And yeah, that is a way for me to lose a ton of money, unfortunately, because I'm going to put tons of time in, and then I get very little to nothing in return. So yeah, that's not something that I've really been able to figure out how to do in a way that allows me to keep doing this full time. But yeah, you never know. And what the future will hold. FizzPV says, but could also prove the lack of risk for whoops. Maybe free them up from all regulations on flying over people. Yeah, you know, sub 100 grams should be total wild west. Like if the FAA cared about FPV, they would just say, like, you know, below 100 grams, you're not going to be able to have enough performance to get high enough to get in the path of any actual like airliner. Even if you did, it's, you know, it's not going to hit as hard as the birds that they're designed to eat. And then if you hit a person, it's not going to do any, you know, it's sub 100 grams. It's not going to do shit. So yeah, that's one of the, it's one of the reasons that I've fallen so deeply for TinyWhoops over the last couple of years, is that, like, a lot of these things about FPV that are real and serious and a pain in the ass go away, right? Like we can fly inside the house where we're not regulated at all. We can fly around people and they don't get pissed off. They laugh and they smile, right? And so, yeah, Whoop is the way. I gotta try. I'm going to try my best to stop saying TinyWhoop other than when I'm referring to the website. That is apparently something that Jesse's lawyers are telling him to kind of chase people around for, and ask people to stop referring to this as a TinyWhoop. This is just a whoop. Or my favorite name for this, thanks to Beta FPV, is Whoop Drone. Just because it's just stupid, and I like stupid things. But yeah, I'm going to try to stop calling this a TinyWhoop. TinyWhoop is the name of that website. I don't think it's a great idea. We've called these things TinyWhoops for a decade, and I don't think we're ever going to be able to stop calling them that. And quite honestly, I think that it benefits Jesse's website for everyone to say TinyWhoop over and over and over again, because then if somebody's like, what's a TinyWhoop, and they type TinyWhoop into Google, they hit his website first. But, lawyer's gonna lawyer. They know better than all of us. They're the smartest ones in the room, and I don't blame them for a minute for listening to what his lawyer is telling him and doing that. Just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean that it's not the right idea. Greg says, LOL, Mike Chin tagged me. Look at that. He says they're providing stuff for weapons to basically all of our enemies, so they were sanctioned. So is every single, I'm certain that it's not just them. I'm certain that every single motor, frame, electronics manufacturer in the FPV space have gotten an order from someone doing awful shit with it, and either just fulfilled the order without thinking about it, or was just like, oh shit, 100 ESCs. Probably somebody doing bad shit. Sucks for the people that are going to get the bad shit done to them. Go. Yeah. Steve Jobs says, so how much more will FPV be now? Double. I live in Canada, so maybe less than us. Yeah, Canada won't be affected because they didn't elect a complete rapist lunatic. It's just us. It's just us cheeseburger munchers that will pay very, very dearly for a terrible decision in November of 2024. Benny Bravo says, thank you, brother. Always great advice and information. Appreciate all that you do for us. Thank you, dude. Levster says, you tested the VCI 29,000 kV, right? Yep. If so, are this the V1 or V2 that you tested? V1. I think the V2s just came out. Uriel says, do you really leave us for a week alone? Yes, I do. This has been an extremely difficult year. Everything has been extremely difficult since November. For so many reasons. I lost a really good friend to suicide. My mental health has been a train wreck because of the unbelievably disgusting things that the people are doing. And I'm really struggling. I'm really, really, really struggling. And so I really need this. You guys give me a lot of energy and a lot of hope for humanity. And, I'm able to come here and just be honest and vent sometimes. And that's all great. But this is still a job, right? Like it's a hell of a job, and I'm unbelievably lucky to do it. And my mental health is so much better doing this than any office job that I ever had, any project management, any sales job, anything that I've ever done in the professional world. But this is still a job, and I still have to treat it like that sometimes, and I still have to do things that I don't want to do. Yeah, vacations are important, right? The entire rest of the world knows that. Unfortunately, in the U.S., we can't seem to wrap our heads around that. We think that just grinding 24/7 until you die is the way to do it, and it's not. And so, yeah, sometimes I just desperately need to walk away and reset. It's a creativity thing, right? And so this is something that creatives understand, I think, better than like anyone, which is that like in order to not lose your creativity, basically, you have to take time off. You have to take a big step back to be able to kind of see, you come closer and closer and closer, and you lose all this stuff in your peripheral vision. And then when you take a step back, you can see all this other stuff that you couldn't see a minute ago. And that's when you get cool new ideas, and recharge. That is self-care, right? Self-care is not fucking bubble baths and going on shopping sprees. That is nonsense. Self-care is not doing the thing. It's doing something different. It's taking a big step back. It's giving yourself time. It's sleeping 10 hours straight. And so, yeah, this is an important thing for me. I haven't had like a chance to. I haven't had a little vacation like this in a while, and this is a really nice one because it's in California, where I've been once, and it was absolute magic. And Maggie and I are probably going to stay here until Florence is out of high school, but that's only 3 years from now, right? And so 3 years from now, or sooner if things get really bad, which it looks like they might, right? We need to have an exit plan to get out of a red state that could potentially do some really horrific shit for lots and lots of people, right? And so California is an incredibly expensive option, but it's certainly an option to move somewhere with decision makers that have functioning human brains. And so, yeah, this is also an important trip in that respect. So I feel bad bailing on you guys for almost an entire week, but believe me, you want me to bail on you for an entire week every once in a while. FizzPV says, putting scientific data, good data, over the public never hurts. It's true. Mike Chin says, you're not supposed to call them TinyWhoops anymore. Bardwell MGB got in trouble for that, yeah. I hadn't talked about that until just now because it was all kind of on hearsay, but I did have a chance to talk to Joshua about it, and he kind of explained the situation to me, I don't know, yesterday or the day before, and I was like, interesting. I don't like it, but there's plenty of things in the world that we don't like. Uriel says small whoop. There we go. We'll start calling them small whoops. Craig says, oh God, trademarks bleach or black. Craig also says trademark the name, Jesse. I think he did trademark it, but from what I understand, that trademark actually expired or something like that. But I mean, whatever. Uriel says, I was not so serious. Wish you best vacation of all. I know. But I take the opportunity to talk about that because it's important, right? Like, especially for us as men, most men have absolutely no concept of what self-care is, right? Like, most men, when they hear self-care, they're like, oh, that's something my wife does that wastes a bunch of my money, and she's the same afterwards, and it's stupid. It's not, man. Like, I got news for you. Women are way smarter than us. Like, the data shows that, and then just, like, being awake in life and meeting women, you'll understand that. And so even though you don't agree with it and you don't understand it, that doesn't mean that it's not real and that it's not super important. They put up with a lot more shit than us. And I'll tell you what, if they didn't figure out self-care, they would be stabbing us a lot more often because of how much shit that they have to put up with, and then how much worse we make it by not understanding it. And so just really understand that. Really, really, really understand that women have it way, way harder than we do in the world as a whole. And the fact that they manage to still do that and then give us any kind of a chance at spending any time with them is a fucking miracle. Because boy, do we make everything so much harder, right? Like, just men in general make women's lives way harder. And just out of, like, typically selfishness and, like, the patriarchy, and just, like, it's been like that for the longest period of time. So, hey, I didn't create the problem. I'm just going to benefit from it. That used to work. Doesn't work as much anymore. So, you know, just keep that in mind. It's important. If you want a happy, healthy relationship, you're probably going to have to figure that out at some point. If you care at all about your partner's happiness, you're going to have to wrap your head around that at some point. So just do it now, because you'll go through a lot less divorces because of that, right? It's pretty important. Just trust me on this. Brandon's Bean says, yes, move to California. Boy, would I love to. Uriel says, hopefully I can say, join me in Thailand. I probably won't move to Thailand. Kelvin says, I live in Oregon, safe over here. Yeah, I with my ex-wife, the plan was to move to Portland, actually. But she lost her goddamn mind before we could do that. And I'm happy about that, because I'm in a much better situation now. Bobby says, Washington State is welcoming. The problem with Portland and Washington State is the rain. It's an awful lot of rain. But if it would be Oregon, a little closer to California. Uriel says, okay, yeah, I'm the man, sure. Yamasur says, I like bubble baths, though. Hey, man, if you enjoy bubble baths, don't let the fact that it's typically a female self-care routine stop you for even a second. Don't let the women take that from you. You know, we're the ones that take things from them. But yeah, man, whatever it is, it's all good. But just, you know, understand that, like, the social media version of self-care is it ain't right. You gotta dig a little bit to find the Instagram pages that actually understand what self-care is. You know, talk therapy. Oh boy, you want to talk about, like, peak fucking self-care? Get yourself a good talk therapist, my friends. That's the shit. Understanding how your brain works, understanding how your childhood, your past trauma and shit has fucked up your mind, and learning how to either fix that or just, like, live with that. That is fucking self-care right there. You want to talk about, like, living a better life, not being all over the goddamn place all the time? That's the shit. If bubble baths do that for you, more power. But, like, proper talk therapy is one of the, if not the biggest self-care things that you can do for yourself. The way that I think about self-care is pretty simple. It's just, like, doing things that I enjoy. And I enjoy learning about how my brain works. I enjoy taking time off, right? When, like, if I play, if I get all sucked into DayZ for, like, 3 hours, I enjoy it a little bit, but I don't enjoy it, like, 3 hours worth. Like, there's a lot of things that I can do for 3 hours that I will enjoy a lot more than DayZ. Like, that's like an anxious 3 hours. That game is fucking anxiety. And so it's you know, balancing that kind of stuff. Uriel says, I stay single and into male prostitution. You do you, my friend. Uriel also says, female jail is not so full because they don't catch them. They're, I don't know what that word is. Cole Powers says, high price to pay. I choose pass. Mr. Meaty says, a buddy of mine just moved from Asheville, North Carolina to Bend, Oregon, and is loving it. Nice. I hear great things about Bend. Cole Power, not what she said. Cole Power says Oregon is going to be nice for the next few months, then 8 months of rain. Yeah, that's the problem. Lord Region says, I understand the mental health. I don't know what's been going on in the universe. People, me, but it has been more of a fight of late. I just keep on and on I go. Yeah, I mean, if you live in the U.S., it's yeah, it's a lot harder because everything is significantly worse. You know, every single day is a little bit worse. Some days a lot worse than the one right before it. So that is going to have a lot to do with it. Denzel the Turbo says people who judge for guys doing girly things they enjoy are dicks. Very true. But try not to just label guys as dicks. Try to explain why they're being a dick, and then maybe they can't be, and then maybe they'll be less of a dick. Oh my god. Maggie and I watched an episode of Ted Lasso last night that, I mean, that show continues to blow my mind. But the episode that we watched last night, I like, it was just on so many different levels. It was so good. So it's the episode where the one player comes out to the team, and the way that they showed in the episode, I don't know if I want to. I'm going to spoil the episode because it's just, I know the majority of you aren't going to watch it. The one player on the team had been keeping a secret that he's gay from the whole team and pretty much everyone. The captain of the team found out about it, and he did not have a good reaction to it. And so they show him being like super upset and like he won't talk to him. And so you go like, oh, what a dick, right? Your first reaction is like, oh, what an asshole. He's a homophobe. What a jerk. And then you kind of soften a little bit and you're like, well, maybe he's just having, for me at least, I'm like, maybe he's just having a hard time with it, right? Because what can happen is that you've known this person for a long time. You think that you know who they are, and then you find out that they've been lying to you about it, but they weren't actually lying to you like nefariously. They were just afraid that it would change your relationship, right? So like they're not telling you the truth for a specific reason. And so that I'm kind of split. I'm like, fuck, are they going to show that he's just a homophobe, or are they going to show that it's hard when people find this out? And they so perfectly showed the other side of that like he was upset at himself for not being able to process it better. And he was hurt. He was hurt that he felt like he was being lied to. But like they showed it in such a real, like, perfect way. I was so blown away. I was just so blown away by this show. I continue to be completely blown away by this show. The writers, everybody involved in that show are just absolute geniuses. That show is like, to me, that's like what I call TV 2.0. The first show that made me think of that was Atlanta from Childish Gambino. That was like one of the first shows that, like, to me, it was just like, yo, this is a new generation of storytelling. Like, we've gotten so good at this medium that, like, yeah, like it's so yeah. If you're not watching Ted Lasso and you can snag Apple TV for a month, you can probably blast through it in a month, which will cost you like $12 or something like that. It is well worth it, man. The show is fucking brilliant. And this episode was just like, oh, so good at showing both sides of that. And yeah, I won't spoil any more of that episode because it's super, super, super worth a watch. Andrew Taylor says Ted Lasso's amazing barbecue sauce. Mike Chin says just looked up the trademark. It looks like it expired, wasn't renewed. Yeah, that's why. That's one of the things that is adding to a little bit of the weirdness with, like, whoever is telling Jesse to pursue people and tell them to stop saying TinyWhoop. Whatever. I don't want to dive too deeply into it because I absolutely love Jesse. I absolutely love lots of other people in the community, and so I don't want to dive into it. Mike Chin says, and if the owner fails to file a timely Section 8 declaration, the registration will be canceled and cannot be reinstated. Yamasaur says, I love the part at the end of that episode when they're playing games. Yeah, there was the last half an hour of that episode, I was speechless. I was just all the way in, over and over and over again, thinking like, no way that they're actually going to do what I think they're about to do. And then they showed another thing perfectly, and I'm like, oh my god, they're fucking geniuses. And then it's like, no way they're actually going to show this as well. And then they showed that as well. It was just like, shows don't do that. Shows like paint the character as a homophobe, and either they shame them or they like weirdly celebrate them because, man, right? Or it's always one or the other. They so perfectly showed that the homophobe character is fucking human, and that is what allows like people to actually, that's what disarms people. That, like, the one word that keeps coming up to me to describe Ted Lasso is like perfectly disarming. It totally disarms everything. And so it allows you to see that character's reaction, and if you've had that reaction before, it allows you to be like, oh, okay, that's a human thing. And then they don't shame it, and so you're not like on guard anymore, and it's just like, oh, well, I had that same reaction, but then nobody gave me that chance, right? Like, typically, if you have that homophobic reaction, rightfully so, you will be shamed for it, right? And it's really easy for those of us that are trying to, open people up, to take the easy way out and be like, what a fucking asshole, right? And it's just like, what a homophobic piece of shit. Like, because it's 2025, like, it's not cool anymore. But like, the way that they handle it, that's the way to handle it. And like, those of us that woke up 10, 15 years ago, like, we're tired, man. We're fucking tired of having that conversation. And that's why we go to this like fuck you place of just like, oh, you're a homophobe, you're a piece of shit, and I don't have 10 minutes for you, because I've done that before, and I've only changed the mind of like 2 people out of 100 that I've tried to have that conversation with, right? And like, we're just tired. A television show that's going to be watched by millions of people, that is where we need that shit to happen because of that impact, right? Us doing it, like, yes, having that one-on-one conversation with your buddy that said something homophobic, that's going to have the most impact because it's one-on-one. But like, shows that do it, right? It's a little bit less impact because it's a show, but like, they have that huge blanket of people that they can drop that knowledge on. And it's a shame that they typically don't do that, right? And so like, to see it done, oh god, it was just, oh, I was so impressed. And like, that's the shit that gives me hope. That's really what gives me hope. Unfortunately, what I have noticed is that they're phoning in some of the other stuff on the show. Like, they're just like, they're some of like the cuts back and forth, some of the reactions are a little forced. Like, some of the acting is not quite where it was in the earlier seasons, but man, the show is still so brilliant. And I'm just still so impressed. Uriel says, if you guys are into man love, they should say so. It makes him a real man to me. Otherwise, a bit gay. Don't say gay like it's a bad thing. Careful with that. But it's not that easy. It's awful easy for us straight guys to say like, oh yeah, all gay guys should just come out. No, it's not at all that easy. Unfortunately, it should be. That absolutely should be the case. But there are a lot of people that make it very difficult, and that sucks. And those are the people that need to see shit like this. Those are the people that we need to sit down with as awakened human beings and have that conversation with and be like, yo, you need to fucking be better. And so, yeah, we unfortunately do not live in a world where, I'll just use the word queer to encapsulate like pretty much the entire LGBTQIA plus community. We do not live in a world where it is easy or smart to just come out all the time, because you will be treated differently. And, as many of us as straight white men, we will never understand that. You might think you understand that, but I promise you that you do not. You have no idea what it's like to have the lived experience of someone that's trans, of someone that's gay, of someone that's any number of other like strange things. As somebody that's been skinny and like somewhat good looking all of my life, I've had like 1% of that experience, and I can tell you it ain't great. All right, and again, I've had the tiniest fraction of that experience. If that was my actual identity, it would be way different. So yeah, it's we do not live in a world where that works, and it is their decision, and you know they have had to live with all of the consequences of that, and they're each individual person is the only one that knows if that makes sense. And it's not a game for them, like it's their life, right? And so you have to trust them. You have to trust them that they are making the right decision, because they are the only one that has all of that info. Mike Chin says Ted Lasso season 1 is pure cinema. It's just so good, so good. Euro says, but if my undies go, oh no. All right, we're taking a break from Euro because he's being insane. I talked mostly about, let's fly some walks now. I think I covered these two guys as much as I kind of can. I want to spend some more time with them. We looked at the flight footage. Yeah, Walksnail is great, man. It's really, really good. This is the other thing I wanted to talk about with Walksnail. Lots of camera options, lots of VTX options. That's great. That's one of the things that does make Walksnail better than 04, right? 04, you've got 2 VTXs and 2 cameras, and that's it. Walksnail, you've got a bunch of different cameras, different sizes, different mounting patterns, different weights. Really, really, really cool. FPV is a super DIY thing. Walksnail fits much better into the DIY world that we live in. Does Walksnail do some weird stuff that's super frustrating sometimes? Absolutely. Is all of FPV filled with stuff that's super annoying and insane sometimes? Absolutely. So, yeah. You know, the fact that we have to use these ridiculous little cables and we have to power these things on while we're pulling the footage off of them, that is just stupid. Goes really well with all the other things in FPV that are just stupid. So, there's that. But yeah, Walksnail is phenomenally good, and we need to not forget that just because the new shiny thing is here in DJI 04. For most people, the experience that they're going to get with Walksnail is going to be amazing. And so I think it's really important to just kind of remember that for a minute and not be so... It kind of felt like when 04 came out, we were like, oh, Walksnail's dead. Fuck that shit. 04 or nothing. And no. For a couple of people, sure. For a couple of people that have a very specific use for 04, definitely. It is a total game changer. But for most people, Walksnail is absolutely amazing, and you will love the experience that you have on it. And so, yeah. And that's really the kind of point that I wanted to get across here on the stream today. Hopefully I did. Let's fly Walksnail so that you can see how good it is. HD VRX. Hold on, let me... You know what hasn't happened this live stream? I think Canon might have fixed their software. I think the EOS webcam utility software might be fixed. On Friday's live stream, it took me an entire hour, which is why the stream started an hour late, to reinstall. I ended up reinstalling everything. OBS, EOS web. There were updates to almost everything. There were updates to OBS. There were updates to EOS webcam. There were updates to the Mac operating system. There was an update to Stream Deck, and it's been stable this entire live stream. I still did have to do the stupid, weird thing that I have to do before the live stream to get EOS webcam utility to connect to OBS, which seems kind of ridiculous. So it's not like all the way fixed. It's not the way it used to be. I used to be able to turn on OBS and this camera would be working. In reality, like what I've had to do ever since the new version of the EOS webcam utility software is I have to turn the camera on. I have to launch OBS. I have to go into the camera. I have to select a different camera. I have to then select the EOS webcam utility software. I have to wait. Sometimes it'll then connect. Sometimes I then have to power the camera off, power the camera back on, do that again, and then it'll connect. Sure wish I could just turn the camera on and have it connect like it used to, but, you know. Mike Chin says, I wish Walksnail was like 30% cheaper, so it fell into a price category that really made sense. Yeah, in a perfect world, that would be perfect. If Walksnail was even 20% cheaper, I think, that would be absolutely perfect. That would be absolutely like the exact right value for money proposition. But it's not, you know, they're using a lot of the same component. I understand why it's not, right? They're using a lot of the same components as the other systems. They just have a lot less of an R&D department, and they've spent a lot less time R&Ding it. But yeah, I agree 100%. From like a performance perspective, that, you know, that's where they would want to be. 20 to 30% less expensive. But there are advantages. Absolutely, there are advantages to Walksnail. So this is a newbie drone cockroach V3 framed Weebleed FPV 40,000 kV 0702 motored Beta FPV 1S old school AIO'd Walksnail light VTX and cameraed old school Mobula 6 upside down ball sack canopied HQ 1.2 by 1.2 by 2 propellered Walksnail freestyle build. Runtime ain't great, but this is about as good as it's going to get if you're going for durability on a Walksnail setup with all off-the-shelf. That's unrecoverable, isn't it? With all off-the-shelf parts. Hold on. Hold on! Well, this gives me a chance to set up this gate that I forgot to set up. There we go. Aye. So this, I will also say about this build, the extra latency of digital makes these indoor freestyle builds significantly harder to fly. I know the latency difference is not huge, but flying inside the house, everything happens really fast, and I absolutely do notice it. Get in there. Wow, this battery's done already. 1S plus digital is tough. Come on now. 1S with digital is very difficult. How did that happen? 2S is really the way to go. Even just from like the amount of juice that the HD VTXs need to run for a couple of minutes. Wow, I'm having a real hard time. Yeah, 1S is just tough. The 04 system is not immune to that. I'm not gonna do an 04 freestyle build. It's just gonna be cinematic builds. Because that's where I think 04 really makes the most sense. I'm not going to tear this build apart. I think that this Walksnail freestyle build is just where it would. This is what I want to have with Walksnail. Like if I'm gonna have an HD freestyle build, this is gonna be it. It's 1 gram lighter and it's less expensive than 04. Not much less expensive, but for me it's a lot less expensive because I have it. Right? Like it's here. It's built. It's ready to go. Jesus Christ. That was actually crash prevention, crash recovery screwing me over. Get in there. Ah! Man, crash recovery is fucking me up left and right. That was another one caused by crash recovery. I think the accelerometer might not be calibrated because it's when crash recovery comes on, it's thrown me to the side a whole bunch. Fuck you! Wow, I'm also flying like a absolute idiot today. Some days you got it, most days I don't. Hold on. Buffoon flying day. That's what today is. Today is a day of flying like a buffoon. VTX overheating already? Jesus. I just crashed the damn thing. Stop overheating! Oh god! Easy! Easy, big fella! Man, it feels heavy too. The Walksnail system adds 7 grams, which on a TinyWhoop is a lot. Ah! Yeah, you gotta really get on the throttle early to catch the thing, Jesus. I think the biggest problem for me, though, is the latency. So there's just so much going on inside here. Ah! Didn't quite get that lined up. I wanted to drop it down in that cube. The runtime is also pretty bad. 1:30. Like, these batteries are coming off here hot. I could run the batteries down a little bit farther, but since the batteries are getting so hot from such powerful motors and props and dragging around so much weight, I don't want to be overly mean to the batteries, so I bring them in at, like, I try to bring them in at 3.5 per cell, and then they'll bounce back up to like 3.8. Good for storage voltage. Sometimes I'll run them down a little bit extra. So, like, I could get 2 minutes out of these batteries, but I'm kind of trying to stop the bleeding of running these on a powertrain, picking up an amount of weight that's, like, kind of this much. Ah! Hold on. I need to accelerate the calibrometer because crash recovery is centering, in air quotes, me over at like a 45-degree angle, and that is causing some of these crashes. I don't remember the there's a stick position to run the calibration, though. I'm not going to plug this into beta flight. Ugh, got on the throttle a little bit too late for that. There we go. Ah! Just caught that cube. There we go. Oh, really? I do a perfect Matty flip through 2 gates, and then I go to just fly through the goddamn gate at the end of it, and I hit it. Great. Oh, just clipped the last one. Oh, Jesus. That was, I got a lot less thrust than I was expecting on that. Ah! Trying to do the mega power loop. But I don't quite got it. Minute 40. I mean, this is one way to rip through these batteries. So we are currently in our hashtag 6 a day routine. If you fly 6 FPV batteries a day, your flying will drastically improve. You can take care of those 6 batteries on a TinyWhoop like this in about 15 minutes, or you can go out and fly a bunch of stuff outside. It doesn't really matter as much. Just do it every day. Fly 6 a day. You will have fun every day, and you will get so much better as a pilot. Teddy's here. I'm kind of settling down now. I'm getting used to the latency. And you'll see me start hitting more stuff. Seeing if I can line up that that sideways leg gap on this dog that I've only hit one time previously. Is he gonna let me? Nope. He's like, nah, bro. Don't get that thing close to my wiener. Ooh, that big wiggle. That big wiggle after that move. Let's try the big power loop. No! Shot down. There it is. There it is! With a big old prop wash shake just to... Oh, fuck you. Just to make sure you know who's boss. Teddy Spaghetti coming to the rescue. There it is. I'm eventually getting all my I'm eventually getting all my moves down here. Hey, yo! Whoa! Whoa! Those teeth. You're a vicious dog in the house. Oh God! Where is he? There he is. Oh! Oh! The manager has arrived. He's checking our progress. Oh! Oh God! Jesus, that was close. Let's get a mirror flip in while we're at it. Oh God, no! This battery's done. Oh, I'm not gonna walk. There we go. Minute and 53. See, all you gotta do is float around a little bit, and then you get some extra. You can get some extra runtime in. Oh, Teddy, you stink, brother. Were you outside? Oh, God, you smell like a dumpster had sex with a diaper. How would that work? Right. 2 more. Come on. Lord says, what is the weight? 1S Walksnail you're flying. It's the same weight as all my other builds, like 18 grams plus the 7 grams of Walksnail. I'll weigh it after the next battery. Oh my God, get out of there. Get out of there. Get! Oh shit! Tried to power loop the desk. Failed. Let's try it again. Oh God! Light panels keep getting me. Yeah! No! Uh-oh. Get out of there. Get out of there. Yeah. Let's follow Teddy upstairs. We can really drain this battery upstairs. Oh, God. Don't do it. Where'd he go? Oh! Hey! Yo! Whoa! Hey! You go up to visit Florence? He did indeed. Yo! What? Hey! Whoa! Oh! Wow, I was on full throttle for a long time to try to keep that from hitting the ground. Oh shit. Oh, good. Let's try it again. Oh God, yeah, it's just oh no. Oh no. Teddy, save me. Yes. It's just a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight to catch coming down from, you know, that big of a throw. I'm asking an awful lot. Wish the fan was on. We could match speed with the blades. Hey, yo, yo. Minute and 30 again. This is what I don't. This is one of the main complaints that I have about this rig, is that When you fly it hard, you just don't get the runtime. Could I go to a lower KV motor to get more runtime out of it? For sure, but which I've done before. But then the flight performance sucks from like a freestyle perspective, right? So like this powertrain is what I need to carry around this extra weight with good flight performance, minimal prop wash, full throttle throws, you know, that big full room power loop. It's just, you know, the weight of digital takes a 1S TinyWhoop and it makes it unrealistic for like hard freestyle flying. And, you know, we've got enough, TinyWhoops have come far enough where we can do these really amazing builds that perform ridiculously well from a freestyle perspective that, like, yeah, that's the jam. 1S with digital works really well as a little tiny Cinewhoop. Actually, okay, so we're gonna bail on this freestyle rig. So that this rig is very specifically built to have full tilt freestyle, 3-dimensional flying, Matty flips, stalls, you know, off throttle throws, but with digital. And the runtime is 1.5 minutes, which for most people is not enough, myself included. Where 1S does totally work with digital is as a Cinewhoop, as the world's smallest little tiny Cinewhoop. And so that's what we'll do here. This is what I use to chase RC drift cars, which is, you know, cinematic flying, right? Subject-driven cinematic flying. And so this is where 1S absolutely works. I was really hoping that 75mm setups would bridge the gap, but they just don't, and they're actually worse than 65mm setups on 1S. 75mm setups need 2S, but I will say with 2S, whoo, they are good. A 2S 04 75 or 85mm rig is a thing of beauty. So we are now at 0 degree up tilt, which is a very Cinewhoop kind of thing to do. This is a massive adjustment for me, but I'm going to try to fly this like a little Cinewhoop. So like if I was doing a home tour, which I don't do often, but I do sometimes, this is more like the flying that I would be kind of doing. Oh, okay. Show the sink. There's all kinds of water in there, so I'm not going to fly under the faucet, but I really wanted to. You show the upstairs, you show the stairwell, you almost hit Sage. Oh, there's a Maggie on a couch. Look at this. You orbit the homeowners, you orbit the... Whoa! Whoa! He's trying to eat me. I was about to say you orbit the Papasan chair. Yo. Doggy. You show the built-ins. You dive the built-ins. Don't dive the built-ins. You show the office. I'll keep you guys out of the bedroom because we left all the whips and chains out. You awkwardly go into the bathroom and then turn around. No, you never do that in home tours. Ever, ever, ever. You show the... I tried to cut it a little too tight. You show the stairwell. And you show the basement. And so now we're going to get a bunch of flight time back because we're not going full throttle all over the place. We've got... I forget what I was just going to say. I don't know what we've got. But... And, like, this is fun. This is, like, kind of the old school way of flying TinyWhoops, right? Like, back in the brush days and in the lower KV days. This was it. TinyWhoops went forward, back, left, and right. They did not have the power to weight ratio to do like full tilt off throttle throws like what we're able to do now. Look how quickly it adjusted the exposure. That was actually kind of impressive. Yeah, this is fun to do. The challenge here is being super smooth, right? Like not showing any of your corrections. That's the challenge with this style flying. or chasing little RC drift cars. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Look at that. So yeah, for 1S, that's really what digital is going to do. Without crushing your batteries, right? Like, even if you're okay with minute and 30-second run times, discharging these little batteries down in a minute and 30 seconds is horribly abusive. Like, your internal resistances are going to go nuts, and you're not going to get more than like 15, 20 cycles out of your batteries before they're shot to shit. And so don't do that. Like, 1S is just not for that. It's for cinematic flying. You need to go find your local group of RC drifters and chase them, because it is the most fun that you will have flying. And so a build like this makes a lot of sense. If you want to go full tilt freestyle inside the house, but you want to do it with digital, this is technically the way to do it. But what you should actually do is just get analog goggles and do it with an analog build, because it's so much better. The latency is much lower. The weight is much lower. The price is much lower. And just across the board, it is a much better experience. Nobody cares how good your freestyle footage looks from like a pixel perspective. What they care about is how hard it was to hit that gap that you just hit at full throttle or off the throttle completely, falling from the sky at 120 miles an hour. Yeah, image quality is for cinematic work. Good flying and daring flying is for cinematic. You show somebody some analog flight footage from a top tier pilot, they're going to have a lot more fun watching that than HD footage from somebody that's been flying for a year or two. That's just the way that it is. And that's a good thing. You know, that is the reason that analog is still totally viable in 2025. Right? Bobby says Doggo is serious. Oh, the weight. Yeah. The weight. The freestyle build that we flew 5 batteries with is 25.1 grams. And then the RC drift car chasing setup is 24.75. So they're heavy. Both of these are heavy. But they are just light enough that you're not going to destroy everything you own. The freestyle setup is going to be really hard on batteries, for sure. Other than that, though, very fun to fly. And these little batteries are not that expensive. So you could just buy a shitload of them and just let them die, right? Full tilt, 1080, 60 freestyle footage inside the house is something that we don't see much because it's kind of a bad idea. And so if you want to kind of like set yourself apart, that's one way to do it. You could even do it with an 04 setup. I don't recommend it, but you know, you do you, my friends. Craig says, but isn't Walksnail with goggles and VTX camera only slightly less expensive than DJI? Sorta. These, if you buy it all brand new, yes. These Avatar goggles, you can get used for a really good price, or if you get them, if you get the Dominator versions, the white and gray ones, brand new, they're pretty cheap. I think they're only like, don't quote me on this, but I think they're maybe like $260, which is a hell of a lot less than Goggles 2 if you can find them, which you probably won't be able to, or Goggles 3, right? So you can absolutely do a Walksnail setup for hundreds of dollars less than a DJI setup. Should you? Probably not. I mean, look, it is different for everybody, and there are going to be people that absolutely should. But 04 is pretty spectacular. And like, you know, this is more, this live stream is more me saying, if you're on a Walksnail setup, think really hard about bailing on it and going to 04, because Walksnail is still really good. If you don't have either, though, you're going to have a very specific reason to go to Walksnail stuff rather than DJI. I think most people will be better off going to the 04 setup. The 04 Lite is insane. The 04 Pro is insane. The 04 Pro will allow you to not buy a GoPro, and that's going to save you a shitload of money. But yeah, if you're currently on Walksnail and you don't have a really good reason to go to 04, nothing wrong with staying on Walksnail. That's for sure. And like every time I fly Walksnail, I have a great time. I have tons of fun, and I'm blown away by how good it looks, and the range is awesome, and it's really, really good. It is absolutely not dead. Walksnail is not dead. 04 did not kill Walksnail. That is nonsense. But if you don't have either, and you're trying to figure out which way to go, I would go 04. I really would, in most scenarios. Mike Chin says, a 1S micro little whoop thing. Whoop drone. Small SMOL whoop. That's it. Small whoop. Good call, Brandon. Yeah, small whoop. Small whoop. Brandon rightfully says Avata 2 is home tour champion. Yeah, it really is. The elevation hold is unbelievable. That is the hardest thing. One of the reasons I don't do home tours, unless the pay is really good, is that it's just the wrong use for FPV. And the elevation control is the most difficult thing. With you pushing so much yaw in, it is super hard to maintain elevation. And as soon as you drop or raise elevation, it just looks awful. The Avata 2 having the elevation control is mega. Mike Chin says, that's how I fly those style of aircraft. I don't know what to call them anymore. I won races like that. Nice. I like small whoop. Yeah, I think Brandon's Baked Beans wins this one. SMOL whoop. Somebody says whiny whoop. Thanks for hanging, friends. I gotta go teach a bunch of people how to couples dance. Tomorrow night will be the last live stream for an entire week, so don't miss it. Tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern time. I don't know what we'll do, but we'll do some stuff, and it'll be great, and you'll have a good time. You can ask me some questions. In the meantime, and while I'm gone, head on over to CiottiFPV.com and click all the buttons over and over and over and over again. Hang out on my Discord. That's where all the cool kids hang. Lots of good conversations, lots of good tech. If you're somewhat new here, we have a really unique group of people that are super into what I sometimes call like FPV 102. I think Joshua and I's streams line up really nice. Like Joshua is FPV 101, 102, 103, 104, but like a lot of the questions that get asked on his live stream, and people find him very early in their FPV journey, a lot of the questions are like FPV 101 questions, and we're so lucky to have somebody that's willing to continue answering those questions. What I more focus on is like FPV 102. You're already up in the air, and you want to really learn about the PID loop and the rates and how to dial those in perfectly for your flight style, for your builds, for the way that you want the footage to look, and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that's what I've spent a lot of time trying to kind of figure out, and that's kind of my main thing. So if you like that, subscribe, do all the things. CiottiFPV.com has lots of ways that you can support me, so I can keep doing that for you. But the people that have chosen to continue to hang out and spend a lot of time over on Discord, they're the people that are on that journey as well. So when you ask questions on my Discord, you're not going to get these absolutely awful answers that you'll get from Reddit and Facebook groups from people that have been flying for 6 days that immediately think that there's God's gift to FPV and know every single answer to every question and inevitably answer everything wrong because they don't know shit about shit. So yeah, our Discord community is very special. It's a group of people that really get it and understand it, and you'll get significantly better answers to questions, and you'll have a significantly better conversation with these guys over there. So do it. Join my Discord, hang out. Jumping onto my Patreon for $3 whole a month will get you full access to the Discord. There's a bunch of Patreon only text channels, Toothpick and Whoop, Micro Brushless, Cinewhoop, 5-inch mini quads, Schlong Range, HD Master Race, the Video Collective, Swap and Shop for selling some of your stuff. All FPV retailers, like just everybody dumps their favorite retailers in there. Lots of cool stuff going on over there. General Nonsense is open to everyone, and there's a couple other text channels that are open to everyone. Troubleshooting Corner, FPV Therapy, if you're on team broken brain mental illness with me. Lots of courageous people telling their stories in there. 3D printing. So yeah, you don't have to give me 10 cents a day to get a lot of the good stuff on my Discord, but it would help me continue to do this and continue running this stuff and answering as many questions as I can. So do it, and I'll keep doing this, and we can keep hanging out. Love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow night. Here's the flight footage from the Grinderino with X-Nova 1804s, GemFan 3525s, and the old school Walksnail setup to play us out. And a big old smudge on the top of the lens. Love you. Bye. See you tomorrow night.